In this episode, I'm going to talk to you about what to do, in my opinion, if unfortunately you were to be deported, particularly from the United States of America or from anywhere at all as a diaspora. You and I have seen the news all over that this thing is real, particularly in the US. Since the change of government, there is this wave of deportation. Sometimes when you look at it from the news, it looks very remote. It can look or sound like it's so far away. But from what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, it's just so close to home to most of our brothers and sisters in the diaspora. This thing is real, my friend. It's real. It can happen to anybody, particularly if your papers are not straight. It can happen to you at work. It can even happen to you, unfortunately, at sanctified places like a church or even a hospital. It can. I've heard of people who are being grabbed from these areas. So it is real. It is real. So I want you to take this very seriously. If your documentation is not straightened out yet, and you feel there's that fear, that nagging fear that what if this were to happen to me also, there's a possibility that could happen because of the present atmosphere or present environment. I'm a very, very optimistic person. I tend to be extremely positive more than negative. I don't even think I consciously can harbor negative thoughts. But I just want to paint a picture that would help you should in case this unfortunate event were to happen to you, right? And for those out there who would say, hey, you deserve it. It should happen to you because you went to somebody's country illegally or you overstayed. Look, for those of you who feel that way, I would say sometimes you have to be a little bit circumspect because life is not black and white. There are varying shades of gray in between. You never know people's circumstances until you sit down with somebody who's probably gone through a lot. So it's not up to us to judge anybody. Life happens. And sometimes desperate situations demand desperate steps. And I'm just throwing it out there because there are a lot of people out there who are like, judging and what do you call it? Full of anger and say, hey, you went to somebody's country illegally and those kind of things. Look, let's throw that somewhere. But I think the main crux of this conversation is about if you are going through that process now, or you think you may go through that process, then watch this video. Right before we go any further, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, do so. Click the subscribe button, click the notification button, like the video so that it encourages me to do more content like this. And anytime I create great content, you get notified. All right, let's jump right back into the video. Also, all right, so my first advice, if you are in that boat, is that process. I've never gone through it, but I've observed people who've gone through it. There are two categories. One category that goes through it and they are emotionally, physically destroyed. It's that encounter of deportation is such a heavy traumatic experience that it leads some people, I would say a good chunk of people, emotionally wrecked, destroyed. They just can't even pick up the pieces. Unfortunately, some people even lose their lives because of the intensity of the trauma. Then there's the other side that I've also seen that uses that as a launch pad to redefine their life. I hope that at the end of this video, you would fall into the category of what I just described, the latter part, where you use this event, this catastrophic event, to redefine your life and give your life a new meaning. That is what this video is going to be all about. So the first step is, if you are being deported now or likely to be deported, or you're just preparing your mind in case it happens, the first thing is take this process one day at a time. Don't overthink it, because overthinking it is going to cripple you. It's going to make you depressed. It's going to make you not be able to take any meaningful action. So the first thing is, take one every day, one day at a time. One day. It's just, if you can just survive day one, that's all the goal is. Survive day one. Then after you get to day one, try your best to survive day two. Try your best to survive day three. Take it, it's just one day. Don't think too long. Don't think about, oh, because of this, that, my life is going to end. Or because of that. No. Take it one step at a time. You and I know it's not easy. Possibly, you may have spent decades, unfortunately, in America or in Canada or in whatever it is in the diaspora you are. You may have spent years, maybe 5 years, 10 years of your life. Maybe you just, life happened. Sometimes it's even more complicated. You may have kids who have proper legal status in where you are, and you do not. It happens. Just take it one day at a time. Don't overthink it. Overthinking will just land you into depression. You don't want to overthink it, right? The major thing that people care about or people worry about when they are about to go through this sometimes may not even be about the deportation itself. It may not, that sometimes may not be about that. Sometimes the major thing that is so difficult to overcome is what other people would say, particularly from their home countries. What would my family say? What would my extended family say? What would the people that I grew up within the same compound, within the same locality? They know I've been in America for 8 years, 9 years. I've been shipping things, sending things. What would they say when I am deported back to Africa? That sometimes is the major stumbling block, or the major fear. But I want to put your heart at ease that if you know that is the issue right now, begin to set expectation. If you know that is your greatest fear and you've not been deported yet, speak to your family. We've never been through this before. I don't know where it's going to go. It could go anyway. It could be that I end up staying or validating my status through an act of a miracle or through an act of process. Or it could be that at any given day, I unfortunately may be one of those people who you see being carried off into an aircraft carrier and sent back home. It's possible. So begin to set that expectation back home. Set that expectation with family members. I know it's difficult, but trust me, you will thank me for this. That would release the pressure or relieve the pressure off of you, the pressure that you've put on yourself about what people will say. That will go a long step to help relieve that kind of pressure. What will people say? So I'm just going to share a quick example. A quick story of somebody I know very well. We went to the same high school together. And this several years ago, he migrated to the US and went to the same high school together in Ghana that time. This a long time ago. You're talking about more than 30 years ago. And for a long time, I hadn't heard from him. So later on, I got to know that he was in the East Coast, in the US. He was in the East Coast. He had migrated there several years back. And he didn't have, I think probably he overstayed his visa or whatever. I don't know his circumstances, but the point is he didn't have the right documentation to be there. But he had lived there for years, and was married and everything. I don't know. I think he probably had a kid, if I'm not mistaken. Then one day there was some kind of a domestic incident, the domestic disturbance, whatever it is. The police came into the scene. One thing led to the other. By the time my friend could say Jack, he was back home in Ghana. All that he had to his name after spending well over 8 years in the US, all that he brought back home was $200 in his pocket. That was it. So when you look at it, his wife was not deported. He was. His kid was not deported, but he was. So not only is he going through the trauma of being separated from family, trauma of potentially being separated from a kid, trauma of just being yanked off his network and friends that he has built, the association that he belongs. Also, the trauma of he just being thrown down and what people will say. Right? All of that combined together, just thrown at him. All that he had to his name was $200. That was it. He was thrown back, came to Ghana. A few years back, I visited Ghana. I met him. I met him. I was driving, and there was traffic either way. So the traffic was slowly moving. So as I was going on the left lane, he was going on the right lane, and I have not seen him for years. But he's so conspicuous that no matter he doesn't age that, he hasn't aged that much, right? So it's like I couldn't miss, turning my eye to the right side and seeing the oncoming car with a very amazing sports car, black, and you wouldn't miss it. Black, like open top, convertible car, top of the line, top of the range car in Accra, Ghana. This guy was driving, everybody was looking, and I turned it. This was my schoolmate. I looked at it. He said, "Hey man, how are you doing?" It's like amazing. So it's like, call me, gave me his number in the traffic. And we started talking. I was shocked by his story. For somebody who had been deported under that circumstance. He came, had nothing, and started from scratch. He didn't even have like advanced education or advanced skill set or whatever it is. But what he was doing in America was, menial job, just getting by, paying the bills, like what happens to most people, right? Just paying the bills. And basically, he started a business. Somebody introduced him to a line of business, some kind of trading here and there that he started doing. And then the thing began to flourish because it was a product or set of products that were always in high demand with good margins, but very high volumes. So he started like basically apprenticing, observing people after he came from America. But the exposure and the mindset that he had coming from America rapidly started helping to accelerate his business because the way he looked at life had changed. So he got to this business, and to cut a long story short, the business has just taken off. Successful business. The last time we spoke, he was actually looking for an accountant or a business consultant to help him straighten out his books because his tax bill for that year, this was a few years ago, his tax bill, a corporate tax bill, not his personal, like the business he was running, the tax bill for that year was about $200,000. And he was desperately looking to, I think, change an accountant or change his business, whatever it is, to try and see if he could save on taxes. So if somebody's corporate tax bill in Ghana is that high or that much, that means his revenue possibly anywhere between $2 to $5 million a year. This was somebody who was struggling in America and had to be traumatically shoved out of America, thrown somewhere. He landed in Ghana with nothing, practically zero. Today, I saw him practically in amazing convertible car. That's several years ago anyway. The last time we spoke, he's funny. He says like, hey, it looks as if the neighborhood that I live now, this is what, and he's quite religious. So this is what God has done. It looks as if the neighborhood that I live now, I think my house possibly is the biggest house in the entire area. I said, really? So you go out measuring people's houses, and it's like we just laughed over it. But that is just telling the story of if this person had thought that his life had ended all because of a deportation. My friend, life is not about America or Europe or anywhere. God can bless you anywhere you are. And some people, this could be, I would say some, possibly not all, but for some people, this could be a blessing in disguise for you. This could be maybe the hand of God taking you from where you think you are supposed to be to where God really, really wants you to be. Being deported back to your country is not a death sentence, so don't make it so. All I'm saying is just take it one day at a time. Make sure you live. Make sure being deported doesn't kill you, because for some people, unfortunately, that's what happens. It becomes an emotional wreck, breaks their heart, gives them, puts pressure on them, and the next thing you hear, they are gone. I think there's a scripture that says a living dog is better than a dead lion. I'd rather you be a living dog in Africa than a dead lion in America. Let me take that again. I'd rather you be a living dog in Africa, even in your village, not just Africa. Be a living dog in the village in Africa than a dead lion on the streets of Washington, D.C. What good is a dead lion? If you have life, my friend, everything is possible. So don't be too weighed down. If it happens, it happens. It's all about what you do when it happens. And I'm going to do what the doctors normally do. Doctors, you go to see a general physician, you unfortunately have an issue. Doctors typically are trained that if somebody has the skill set in that specialty, they refer you to a specialist, right? Most doctors do that. They will refer you to a specialist. Hey, my eye, blah, blah, blah. Go and see the eye specialist. My ear or my throat is hurting. They say, go and see the ENT specialist. It has to do with the heart. Go and see a cardiologist. If it has to do with the nerves or the neurological function, they refer you to a neurologist, right? If it's a psychiatric problem, they refer you to go and see a psychiatrist. It's that simple. We don't know it all. But I have a friend who is masterful. He's great at helping people who have hit the rock bottom, particularly in Africa, to redefine their lives, particularly in the area of entrepreneurship. His name is Obin Dakun. I want you to subscribe to his channel. Obin Dakun, he's helping people, especially people who do not even have any serious education or skill set, whatever it is. I know people who are testifying about how Obin Dakun, he's a very good friend of mine. We've done multiple episodes together. I think we did one like 3-4 months ago on this channel. I want you to listen to Obin Dakun, subscribe to his channel. I've not even spoken to him about this, but I just feel deeply that if you think your life has crashed and you're an African and You don't, and you are likely to be deported, or you have been deported. I just want you to watch Obeng Dako's channel together with mine, obviously, but I want you to watch it. And the story, I know people who are just doing basic farming, selling, tomato farm in Ghana, doing, growing onions. And out of that, they've been able to build mansions. Some of them have been able to getting revenues over $1 million in revenue. And the last time I spoke with Kwabena, he was sharing some of the testimonies. I was blown away. I was blown away. And he was telling me how people who think they have nothing can build something out of nothing. So that would be my final recommendation to you. Watch my friend, Obeng Dako. Do all that I say, one step at a time. Don't overthink it. If they deport you, that's not the end of the world. A living dog is better than a dead lion. Live for your children. Make sure you live for your children. And I'll end here. We started a community, a brand new community, to connect Africans in the diaspora with Africans who are living on the continent, to share ideas, to share best practices, to inspire each other. If you want to join, it's free. Use the link in the description to join. Find diaspora experts, and I'll be happy to see you in the community. We just started, it's brand new. So if you want to, do so. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, do so too. Until I see you again, peace. Make sure you live.